Hey guys, tonight we're heading back to ancient Greece, but not for the usual epic battles or godly tempers. No, tonight's story is about something far more relatable: oversleeping. Imagine it's just before dawn at Delphi. The marble of the temple is still damp with cool night air. Olive trees rustle softly outside the sanctuary, and the priestesses are stretching, yawning, waiting for the first light to hit the sacred stone. But nothing happens. The birds look confused. The rooster gives it another try. Still nothing. The sun, which normally arrives like a proud golden guest of honor, is just not showing up. And everyone's beginning to suspect something's wrong. You, standing there in the courtyard with your sandals slightly damp from the dew, glance up at the sky. Still dark, still starry. You check a nearby sundial, but of course, that's no help. Turns out Apollo, god of music, prophecy, truth, and the sun, hasn't gotten out of bed yet. You probably won't survive this if you're a mortal farmer needing to know when to plant barley. But since this is a bedtime story, you'll be just fine. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, let me know in the comments where you're listening from and what time it is there. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You trudge slowly across the cool stone of the temple plaza, your breath visible in the dawn that never came. The usual glow over the mountain ridge? Missing. The gentle gold that slides down statues and across sleepy goat trails? Not here. The priestesses of Apollo, normally very composed and fond of vague metaphors, are clearly unnerved. One of them mutters about an eclipse, but you both know this isn't that. Even the laurel tree near the sanctuary door is drooping like it's wondering whether photosynthesis is cancelled. The torchbearers who normally extinguish their flames at first light look around awkwardly and keep their torches burning. You sit on a low wall and watch as a goat starts bleating in confused protest. The temple cat paces in circles, chasing shadows that haven't yet been erased by sunlight. Over in the hills, someone tries to start the hymn that usually greets the sun's arrival, but it trails off halfway through. Then you hear it. A hushed conversation between two junior acolytes. One says, "He's still asleep." The other gasps, "But he never sleeps this late." And suddenly the truth ripples through the temple like wind in a silk canopy. Apollo overslept. This, frankly, is uncharted mythological territory. There are stories about Apollo slaying dragons, wooing nymphs, and performing on stage with his lyre like a godly rock star. But not one scroll mentions him missing his own sunrise. You stroll over to the sacred omphalos stone, tapping it gently as if it might buzz and deliver celestial news. No such luck. Just cold marble, and the lingering scent of last night's olive oil lamp smoke. A sleepy priest with impressive eyebrows sighs beside you. He probably stayed up too late composing, he says, or practicing those new sunbeam harmonics he's so fond of. You nod politely, though you have no idea what sunbeam harmonics are. Still, it's oddly comforting to know that even gods get a little too into their side projects sometimes. A flock of birds makes a circle above the temple, unsure of which direction to fly. A donkey brays in annoyance because someone forgot its breakfast, and all around the humans of Delphi are adjusting, slowly and a bit nervously, to a morning with no morning in it. Historians still argue whether this myth, or dream, or divine clerical error was ever recorded formally. Some say it was told in hushed jokes at symposiums. Others claim a lost scroll in the library of Pergamon once described the great nap of Apollo, but was eaten by mildew and goats in that order. Whatever the case, it's clear something very odd is happening. You lean against a column carved with golden snakes and watch as the oracle's assistant pours herself a third cup of pomegranate tea. She shrugs. I guess he's earned a break. He is the sun. Meanwhile, the sacred chickens begin pecking at their own reflections in the bronze bowls meant for sunrise offerings. It's like everyone and everything is quietly glitching without the daily beam of order from above. You pace a little, the rhythmic slap of your sandals matching the slow ticking of some invisible mythological clock. Should someone knock on Apollo's chamber door? Is there even a door? And does it creak? Eventually, a slightly out-of-breath temple boy scampers up from the stables with news. The sun chariot is still parked. 4 immortal horses, radiant and glowing even in darkness, are standing around with their bridles off, munching quietly on golden oats. One horse sneezes, another looks mildly offended by the lack of direction. It's an eerie sight. Beasts that usually streak across the heavens now just loitering. The boy shrugs. They looked at me like I was late, he says. You smile despite yourself. Of course they did. Still, someone should probably do something. Apollo has fans, Apollo has a schedule, and above all, Apollo has an orb of fire that is very much not where it's supposed to be. A single ray of light finally peeks over the horizon, but it's pale, slow, and sort of wrong. Like a torch passed reluctantly by a backup intern. You narrow your eyes. Something tells you this wasn't entirely unintentional. You shift on the stone bench as a hint of gray filters through the sky, but it's still not the golden burst you were waiting for. Somewhere out there, the mechanical certainty of Apollo's daily sun chariot ride has stalled. The question hangs like mist over the temple. Where is the chariot? You make your way down the path toward the eastern ridge where the chariot is normally seen departing. You expect signs of activity, hoofprints burned into the earth, gusts of heated air, dramatic flare effects. But there's only a strange hush. Even the bees seem unsure whether to buzz. Then you spot it, tucked inside the golden-streaked alcove carved into the mountainside. The chariot itself, gleaming in the twilight like a forgotten parade float. And the horses. Not just any horses. These are celestial beings, their manes shimmering like liquid sunlight, their eyes small solar flares. They look bored. One of them is lying down. Another has its head in a barrel of what appears to be fermented nectar oats. Their gleaming harnesses hang limp. A third horse stares at you and snorts meaningfully, as if to say, "We don't clock in until he does." Now, here's the thing. In most myths, the chariot is a spectacle of divine order, racing across the sky with rhythmic majesty. But today, it just sits there like someone's dad's boat that never gets taken out. The paint is perfect. The engine, metaphorically speaking, purrs. But the driver? Missing. You duck behind a laurel bush as a small group of temple elders approaches. They whisper loudly. "I told you," says one in a whisper that carries. "He was up late improvising solar jazz again." Another nods solemnly. Or composing another ode to Apollo by Apollo. You know how he is. And then there's the real concern. Without Apollo's presence, the day won't truly begin. Offerings can't be made. The oracle's visions are cloudy. The fishermen can't sail, and the bakers are terrified the bread won't rise properly without divine heat. All of it, commerce, agriculture, ritual, hope, hinges on one very sleepy god. Historians still debate whether the sun was ever considered to be so intimately tied to Apollo's punctuality, or if this was just a charming poetic overlay added centuries later. But the myth persists in fringe circles, usually told with an embarrassed shrug by Apollo's more loyal cultists. Still, this isn't just about light. It's about rhythm, about reliability, about gods doing their part so mortals can muddle through theirs. A nearby goat sneezes, and you take it as a sign to move closer to the chariot. A quiet sniff reveals the faint scent of myrrh and eucalyptus oil, Apollo's favorite post-battle scent blend, according to one overly chatty scroll. It's then that you notice something odd. A finely embossed bronze comb lying in the grass. Intricately carved with depictions of lyres and laurels, it looks freshly dropped. So he was here, recently. One of the horses gives a half-hearted nicker and stamps a glowing hoof. A little spark flares and vanishes. You get the impression they're losing patience, and frankly, so is the universe. You wonder what would happen if no one took the reins today. Would Helios get called in as a nostalgic substitute? Would the moon just circle back out of pity? These are technically cosmological issues, but right now they're personal. And still, no Apollo. Elsewhere, temple girls begin trying to simulate morning rituals without light. They ring bells, recite verses, and light candles with serious expressions. But it's like pretending your electric toothbrush is a harp. It's not fooling anyone. You're not the only one who's noticed. On the edge of the forest path, you spot a familiar figure. a minor river god known more for his dramatic cloak than any actual hydraulic influence. He's squinting at the sky and muttering about union bylaws. "It's always the beautiful ones," he says to no one in particular. "Think they can skip dawn?" There's also a merchant from Thebes shaking a sundial in frustration. "How am I supposed to measure day wages in this mess?" he complains to a fig seller. "Is it even the same day if the sun hasn't started it?" The fig seller shrugs and eats a fig. "I say sell like it's mid-morning and nap like it's midnight. Let the gods catch up." You think that's pretty solid advice. At this point, small bureaucratic chaos has set in. A pigeon post arrives late because it couldn't find its shadow. A statue's eyes are glowing at the wrong angle, and the sacrificial priest keeps checking his wrist for a watch that hasn't been invented yet. The absence of light is becoming less romantic and more administrative. But still no sign of Apollo. You sit cross-legged near the chariot, watching the glowing hooves of the horses rise and fall with sleepy grace. One of them is definitely humming, and it sounds suspiciously like a lullaby. And then it hits you. What if this isn't just a nap? What if Apollo is avoiding the morning? You think about his reputation. God of music, healing, the arts. Also known for ego, mood swings, and dramatic exits. Maybe he's staging something. A celestial labor protest? A divine statement on underappreciation? Historians still argue whether myths like this were satire or subtle critiques of divine inconsistency. But one thing is certain. Without Apollo, nothing starts. And so the world waits, paused just outside of morning, while you and the horses listen to the faint whisper of a god dreaming somewhere behind the sky. By now, the whole sanctuary is humming with low-level anxiety, the kind that sets in when the predictable suddenly isn't. You stroll through Delphi's stone paths, feeling the uneasy rhythm of a city stuck in celestial limbo. People are whispering, pacing, occasionally staring skyward like lost children waiting for a parent to come home. You stop at a food stall that usually sells sun-warmed honey bread. The vendor sighs and hands you a lump of cold barley mash instead. "No light, no rise," he mutters. "Not even the bees are working today." You chew slowly. It tastes like disappointment, which is about right. Somewhere nearby, a lyre player begins strumming softly, trying to summon a sunrise with chords alone. You recognize the tune? It's one of Apollo's favorites. It's called something dramatic, like Ode to the Light of My Unmatched Brilliance. But it's been slowed down now, more lullaby than anthem. The player's fingers move gently, like he's trying not to wake a sleeping baby. You follow the music toward the eastern garden, where you find a curious gathering. A dozen or so temple apprentices, each holding scrolls, figurines, or fragments of broken statues. They sit in a circle discussing where Apollo might be. "He's probably sulking," says one, biting his nail. "Remember last week when someone offered him figs instead of grapes? He's still not over it." Another nods solemnly. Or maybe he saw one of those new frescoes of himself and thought his hair looked weird. It's not impossible. The gods, after all, are notoriously sensitive about their iconography. You settle beside them, letting your eyes drift up toward the stubbornly dim sky. The stars have faded, yes, but the sun isn't really shining. It's more like implying itself, a quiet suggestion of light. From your spot on the grass, you can hear snippets of stories floating through the group. Small moments of Apollo's past that suggest this isn't entirely out of character. Like the time he tried to impress a nymph by composing a poem so long, it put her into an enchanted nap, which, depending on the version, she may or may not have asked for. Or when he got into a liar-off with a satyr, lost and refused to speak to anyone for a week. Historians still argue whether those tales were metaphor or just literal stories told by people desperate to make sense of divine behavior that, quite frankly, resembled over-caffeinated artists with a flair for drama. One apprentice clears his throat. "There's a scroll in the Temple of Athena that says, 'Apollo once declared, even I must rest, lest the sun grow tired of me.'" The others blink at him. "Might have been a metaphor. Might have been brunch talk," someone else mutters. Still, you start to wonder, what if Apollo simply didn't feel like being the sun today? What if, for once, he decided that the universe could run itself without his daily parade? You close your eyes, listening to the lazy buzz of a dragonfly. The warmth in the air is faint, like someone lit a single candle in a vast room. It's not enough, but maybe it's something. And then, from beyond the olive grove, there's a rustle, a quiet hum, a soft, unmistakable twang. You freeze. It's a lyre. Not the hesitant strumming of an acolyte, but something richer, deeper. It rings out with the self-aware drama of someone who knows they're being listened to and enjoys it. You rise slowly, following the sound through swaying olive branches, past a slumbering tortoise, and into a shaded glade behind the temple. The music coils around you like sunlight filtering through honey. And there he is, Apollo, reclining on a stone bench shaped like a crescent moon, draped in golden fabric that shimmers like morning dew on sunlight. His eyes are half-lidded. His fingers pluck at the lyre strings with the lazy precision of someone playing for himself, not the world. You stay still, not wanting to interrupt. He knows you're there. Of course he does. "I'm not late," he murmurs without looking up. "I'm pausing." You tilt your head. "Pausing is sacred," he continues. "No one respects pauses anymore. Everything's go, shine, burn. Even the horses roll their eyes if I take too long to comb my hair." He gestures vaguely at the sky. "They'll live. They've seen twilight before." You step closer, soft on the mossy ground. He looks radiant. But also, there's no way around it. Exhausted. Not tired like you after a walk up the hill. Tired like a metaphor unraveling. Like a god carrying too many expectations on one sunbeam-soaked shoulder. "I stayed up," he adds, as if defending himself. "Had an idea, a new scale, for warmth. Do you know how long it takes to compose warmth in D minor?" You shake your head. You do not. He finally looks at you then, a slow blink. "I've given them centuries of fire. Let them have one odd morning. Let the bread go flat." You don't disagree. And, as if remembering something faintly amusing, Apollo smirks. "Besides, Helios always said I was too punctual. Said it was unbecoming of a god." He rolls his eyes. "Helios drives like a maniac. Almost lit a vineyard on fire last spring." There's a pause. And you feel it now. The slight shift in the air. A pulse. Not the full weight of the sun, but a promise of it. Like Apollo is winding himself up again, piece by golden piece. "Tell them," he says finally, stretching like a cat. "Tell them I'll be along shortly." You nod, turning to go. But before you leave, he strums one last chord, light, rich, rising. And far off behind the mountains, something gleams. You return to the chariot ridge just as the wind picks up, the kind of breeze that doesn't stir your hair so much as ruffle your spirit. Something has shifted. The air is warmer, not with the burn of midday, but the promise of effort. A yawn from the heavens, a sleepy stretch. The equivalent of the cosmos hitting snooze and finally swinging its legs over the bed. The horses sense it too. They rise in unison now, their joints crackling with solar sparks. One kicks a bronze feed bucket clean off the edge of the ridge. It vanishes into the gorge below with a faint echo of clanging inevitability. Another horse tosses its mane and huffs, clearly unimpressed by being kept idle. These aren't ordinary stallions, they are divine fire beasts, and they know it. One in particular, probably named something like Pyrothrix or Sunhoof because gods love melodrama, stomps twice and looks eastward. It's the kind of look that says, "We're ready, took your sweet time." The acolytes scatter as you approach, their arms full of ceremonial gear, garlands, and scrolls, still damp with nervous ink. "He's coming?" they ask breathlessly. You nod. One sighs with such relief you're briefly concerned he might float away like a prayer lantern. You help them prepare the ceremonial ramp. It's more symbolic than practical. No one believes Apollo actually needs a ramp. But traditions matter, even to the divine. Especially to the divine who invented half of them out of sheer boredom. As you hang a wreath of laurel from the golden yoke, you overhear an elderly priest muttering calculations. If he starts now, trajectory will correct by midday. Crops get 6 hours of sun, give or take. It'll have to do. It all feels incredibly bureaucratic for something as poetic as sunrise. One of the younger apprentices whispers, What if this becomes a regular thing? Like solar holidays? You don't hate the idea. But historians still argue whether Apollo's brief disappearance from the daily sky cycle was ever meant as protest, fatigue, or just cosmic whimsy. The only thing agreed upon is that this event gave rise to several regional sayings about being as late as Apollo in spring. Nearby, a chicken flaps its wings in cautious celebration. Apparently it too feels the dawn creeping back into the day. The light begins to spill over the hills. Not fully, not yet. Just puddles of illumination forming around corners and temple walls. As if Apollo is brushing the world with light the way a painter tests strokes before beginning a mural. A temple scribe begins to record everything in real time. First sunbeam reached the acacia tree. No notable melting. Pigeons slightly more optimistic. You glance up, and there he is. Apollo appears atop the ridge, walking like someone who knows the sky is watching. His robes are now neatly draped, shimmering like melted pearl. His expression is one of dignified apology mixed with zero actual regret. He raises a hand. Everyone bows. Even the horses nod. Well, one sneezes, but it feels respectful. Apollo mounts the chariot, movements precise. Not rushed, but not languid anymore either. His fingers brush the reins and you can feel the hum through the ground. The whole world holds its breath, even the goat tethered to the fig tree. Then a flick of the wrist, a call in a tongue older than mountain roots. The horses rear with unison fire. The wheels lift an inch above the stones. The light bursts forth not in blinding heat, but in waves, layered warmth rolling gently across the landscape. And just like that, day begins. The temple bells ring. Not with urgency, but with welcome. Fishermen unfurl their nets. The honey bread vendor gives you a celebratory lump that's at least halfway toasted. You sit on the ridge and watch the chariot become a golden streak across the soft blue sky. Somewhere a flute picks up the same tune Apollo was playing in the grove. A quiet tribute, a sleepy encore. The village begins to wake properly now. Children chase shadow puddles, their sandals slapping on dusty stone. Priests unroll scrolls with a little more energy. The fig seller shouts a price no one intends to pay. Life, with all its clutter, resumes. Still, you can't shake the feeling that something small and important just changed. Not for the world, for Apollo. Because sometimes even sun gods need a moment. Even perfection can oversleep. Even the eternal takes a personal day. And maybe that's not chaos. Maybe it's balance. Later that afternoon, the temple elders begin discussing whether this morning should be commemorated annually. A festival of the overslept sun, someone suggests. With shade-themed poetry readings and a mandatory nap. You offer a thumbs up. And as the day stretches into afternoon, the heat just right, the bread crust's perfect, and the shadows appropriately slanted, you lie back in the grass and close your eyes just for a moment. It's okay. The sun's up now. He's got it from here. You wake to the gentle clatter of a broom, an apprentice sweeping laurel leaves from the chariot ridge. The sky is now a high, soft blue, the kind that feels like a silk sheet pulled taut across the heavens. Apollo's trail still lingers faintly in the air like the final chords of a song you almost remember. The temple is alive again, but quieter than usual. Not hushed with fear like earlier, but softened. As if everyone's speaking just a touch more gently, walking a bit more mindfully. You stretch, bones clicking like papyrus unrolling, and start your slow walk back into Delphi. Along the way, you pass a group of priests recording ephemerides, daily observations of celestial events. Mark it down, one says, tapping his stylus. The day of solar pause, just in case it happens again. Another priest leans over his scroll and adds a note. Unclear whether divine nap or tactical rebellion. Further omens required. Historians still debate whether this became the origin of the Delphic intercalary pause, a local calendar tradition where one day a year time was symbolically set aside to do nothing. A national day of dignified loafing, sanctioned by the gods. At the agora, you find the townsfolk in full adjustment mode. One cobbler is remaking his sandals with lighter soles, just in case the sun gets lazy again, he jokes. The bathhouse has half-price massages to honor the morning of mindful movement. A market stall is selling chilled date rolls under a brand new sign. Sunrise optional. Even the pigeons seem more philosophical today. One lands near your feet, looks you dead in the eye, and coos like it knows something. You coo back. It's that kind of day. The shrine to Apollo now has fresh offerings. Loaves shaped like pillows, scrolls tied with gold thread, and, curiously, tiny carved suns with eyes half closed. One features a poem that reads, "Even fire can blink, even gods get sore shoulders, the world waits kindly." As you wander through the shaded colonnades, you hear stories spreading already, mutating in the way myths love to do. In one version, Apollo was wrestling with a dream so beautiful he refused to wake. In another, he was composing a new sunlight spectrum only visible to crickets and poets. Someone else swears they saw him sipping honeyed wine beside the river Lethe, laughing with his own reflection. All might be true, or none. And that's the thing about Greek myths. They don't ask for belief so much as attention. They exist not because they happened, but because they explain what logic can't wrap its arms around. Why the sky feels heavier sometimes, or why even the perfect flame has flickers. You arrive at the temple kitchen just in time for late lunch. A bowl of lentil stew, a few olives, and a slice of crusty bread are handed to you with ceremonial flair by a cook who's declared himself the high priest of second breakfast. You accept the role of loyal disciple immediately. "Did you see him?" the cook whispers, ladling stew. "Was he angry? Was he sad?" You pause. "No," you say, "just resting?" He nods as if that's the most radical idea he's heard all year. You eat slowly under an olive tree, listening to the scratch-scratch of a scribe writing poetry nearby. He's working on something about celestial pacing and ambrosial leisure. The line, "burnout is a mortal invention," keeps cropping up. As you watch the shadows lean into afternoon, a sudden flutter of golden feathers catches your eye. A raven, Apollo's sacred bird, lands on the wall near your bench. In its beak, it carries a strip of parchment. It drops it beside you, then flaps off like a courier with a deadline. The parchment reads, "All light returns, even when delayed, especially then." No signature, of course, but the ink smells faintly of sun-warmed laurel, and the handwriting loops like sun rays curling over a hill. You smile. A young girl nearby is telling a story to her dog about how Apollo used the stars as a blanket, and overslept because they were so cozy. Her dog sneezes, possibly in agreement. Everywhere life adapts. This strange, gentle anomaly in the daily rhythm of things has turned into a minor civic holiday. No official name yet, though Yawn of the Sun seems to be the leading contender. There's talk of holding a play that reenacts the morning's events, with the lead role being portrayed by an unusually expressive sheep. You approve. And though the sun now rides high and proud, burning its usual golden trail across the afternoon sky, you feel its warmth a little differently today. Not as a given, but as a gift. You lie back on the bench, arms folded behind your head, and close your eyes once again. And there, behind your eyelids, you almost see it. Apollo curled on that crescent-shaped bench, humming a half-forgotten melody, a lyre across his chest, sun rays pooling like cats at his feet. Not gone. Just paused. The next morning, no one oversleeps. Not the temple guards, not the bakers, not even the goats, who usually take their time deciding whether to begin the day. Everyone is up with the sun, partly in celebration, partly in fear that if they don't rise with it, they might miss something again. You, though, take your time. After all, if Apollo can afford a slow start once in a millennium, so can you. You wander back to the chariot ridge just after dawn, a cup of barley tea in hand, still steaming, still oddly comforting for something that mostly tastes like wet hay. The ridge is quieter today, though a few apprentices are rehearsing what looks suspiciously like a sunrise greeting dance. One of them slips on a ceremonial sandal and face plants into a bush. Divine timing indeed. As you sip your tea, a familiar face appears beside you. Leto, Apollo's mother. She's rarely seen in the city proper, usually preferring the more dignified solitude of island shrines and moonlit groves. But today she's here and unexpectedly smiling. "Let him sleep more often," she says, her voice soft but sun-strong. He's been running since the world was young. You blink. So, he has done this before? Leto gives a non-committal shrug. Once or twice, but this was the first time he didn't feel the need to apologize. Historians still argue whether this day marked a subtle turning point in Greek theology. One where gods, once faultless engines of cosmic order, began to be seen as figures capable of rest, reflection, even indulgence. A few moments later, a bronze-liveried courier jogs up the ridge, panting. "Decree from Athens!" he gasps. They want to know if this means the calendar needs adjustment, or if they should send a cake. You suggest both. And so begins the long, surprisingly bureaucratic fallout of Apollo's nap. The temple elders draft proclamations, each more poetic than the last. Let no flame burn without pause. Sunlight, like olives, improves with pressing. Divine slumber is still divine. One young philosopher starts a scroll-length debate on whether a god can truly sleep if time pauses around him. If no one sees the god snoring, does the cosmos still twitch? You're tempted to toss his scroll into the nearest well. Later, at the agora, debates rage. Not with anger, but with that sleepy curiosity that comes after something strange and beautiful. A marble merchant says he now feels closer to Apollo than ever. I mean, we all need rest days. Even my donkeys take Wednesdays. Somewhere near the baths, a group of older women have started a weaving circle dedicated to the moment. They're stitching tiny suns into headscarves, each one shown with closed eyelids and a yawn. They offer you one. You accept with great solemnity. Meanwhile, artists are already immortalizing the event. One statue in progress shows Apollo slumped on his chariot, one sandal dangling, hair slightly tousled, a half-eaten fig in hand. It's strangely accurate, even if no one's quite sure where they got the fig detail. Possibly artistic license. A wandering minstrel sings a new ballad. Oh, golden one who hit snooze thrice and left us with morning dew and mice. It's catchy. You hum it for the rest of the day. But under the playfulness, something deeper lingers. Because it's not just that Apollo took a nap. It's that the world didn't end when he did. Sure, there was confusion, a bit of delay, some very unripe grapes got sunburned. But mostly, the world waited. Not with panic, but with patience. As if somewhere deep in their bones people understood. Even gods don't shine constantly. And maybe that's the part that resonates. That perfection, if it must exist, still needs its exhale. You hear rumors that across the sea in far-off Persia, priests of Mithra held a vigil for the sleeping sun. In Egypt, a handful of scribes reportedly noted a slight lunar hiccup and chalked it up to divine harmonization. Even in the north, among the hill tribes, someone carved a runestone that, roughly translated, reads, "Skyfire went snoozy, sheep pleased." Scholars will puzzle over that one for centuries. You spend the evening near the oracle's chamber, watching the sky bleed slowly into lavender and flame. The Pythia is not speaking today. She's sipping something warm, surrounded by cushions, gazing contentedly at the horizon. "Good day for no omens," she murmurs. You nod. Sometimes the absence of prophecy is its own kind of wisdom. As twilight takes hold, the stars begin to poke through like curious children peeking out of a curtain. The moon rises, fat and mellow, casting soft light over Delphi's rooftops. Somewhere below, someone lights a small fire and begins roasting figs and honey bread. You inhale deeply. The scent is warm, sweet, nostalgic. It smells like a story you've only just begun to understand. The days pass gently like feathers drifting through honeyed air. In the week following Apollo's cosmic siesta, life in Delphi adopts a new rhythm. Not slower exactly, but softer. The markets open a little later. The temple bells ring with less urgency. Even the philosophers pause to listen between their arguments, which is perhaps the most miraculous event of all. You begin to notice things you hadn't before. The way sunlight dances through cypress trees, the tiny whirls on the rim of a lyre, smoothed by centuries of plucking. The patient blink of a tortoise crossing the temple courtyard, entirely unbothered by time or theology. Apollo hasn't offered another divine appearance since that morning, but his absence now feels deliberate. Like he's watching, waiting, letting you all figure out what to do with a world that's remembered how to breathe. Of course, not everyone is handling it with quite the same grace. Take, for instance, the self-proclaimed Chrono Reform Committee, a trio of over-caffeinated scribes who have decided that Apollo's nap proves the current calendar is deeply flawed. Their new proposal includes 5 extra nap days, a rolling sun sabbatical, and a mandatory weekly hour of cloud watching. One of them hands you a scroll. It's titled, "Time is an Opinion." You nod politely and put it under a wobbly table leg. Meanwhile, down by the portico, a group of children have invented a new game called Chariot Delay. It involves lying very still on the marble floor while someone pretends to be the sun, snoring loudly. The winner is whoever can go longest without giggling. They're terrible at it. It's wonderful. Elsewhere in the sanctuary, old records are being re-examined. One archivist insists she's found evidence of a similar solar absence some 430 years ago. A faded account scribbled in the margin of a weather log. Skylight sluggish, chickens confused. Historians still debate whether this was metaphor or actual poultry disorientation. Either way, she's decided to write a paper on it. Working title, The Chickens of Apollo. A visiting astronomer from Rhodes shows up with a portable star mapping contraption and demands access to the high ridge. "I must compare constellational drag coefficients," he says, eyes twitching from too much sleep deprivation and not enough stargazing etiquette. You offer him a fig and steer him toward a more horizontal observatory, a hammock someone strung between 2 olive trees. He resists at first, but is soon heard softly murmuring coordinates in his sleep. Then, late one evening, something quietly spectacular happens. A new fresco appears on the southern temple wall. No one saw it being painted. No one claims authorship. But there it is. Golden pigment catching firelight, the kind of gold that looks stolen from dawn itself. It shows Apollo, not in heroic battle, not atop a flaming chariot, but reclining on a stone bench surrounded by stars shaped like musical notes. His eyes are closed. One hand rests on his heart, the other holds a scroll. Below the image, in tiny script, are the words, "Even gods must dream or they forget the music." You spend a long time in front of that fresco. Long enough that a local baker, who's taken to selling sleep-themed pastries, try the snooze scrolls with honey cinnamon drizzle, brings you a sample without asking. "For your dreams," she says with a wink. The next morning, you find a growing crowd in the main square. They've gathered for the first official Sun Pause Festival, a spontaneous civic invention celebrating the divine Napaversary. There are garlands of chamomile, slow-moving parades, and a ceremonial yawn-off that ends with everyone lying flat in the street, hands behind heads, staring at nothing in particular. You join in. It's shockingly therapeutic. Later, there's a storytelling competition. The prompt: where did Apollo go when he dozed? You hear tales involving floating islands of dreams, an orchard where time ripens like fruit, and a bedroom carved into a mountain where the god is cradled by wind. One child insists he went to visit a star that sings lullabies. Another swears she saw him playing dice with Hypnos, god of sleep, and losing. None are right, or all are. And that's the point. You begin to understand that the story itself, the telling of it, is more important than the truth. Because the truth here isn't data. It's something felt. Like sunlight through closed eyes. You walk home beneath a sky painted lavender and apricot. The moon glides behind thin veils of cloud and the stars lean in, eavesdropping on your every thought. You wonder if you overslept one day, would the world wait for you too? You think, maybe. Because it did once. And someone took notes. It's been 2 weeks since the world watched the sky oversleep. By now, the sun has resumed its expected course, rising with dependable warmth, setting with theatrical splendor, but somehow things don't feel entirely the same. There's a subtle difference in the way people greet each other, in how long conversations last, and the fact that morning prayers are now sometimes whispered through yawns. You find yourself leaning into the slowness. Even the olive trees seem to sway with more patience. There's talk that Apollo has started humming again. No one's sure where the rumor began, but it's said that at dawn, if you stand still enough, really still, like statue in a rainstorm still, you can hear faint music laced into the sunrise. Harp strings, maybe, or breath over a reed flute. Nothing insistent, just there. Of course, the scholars have already taken over the theory. One insists the sound is the shifting of solar winds. Another claims it's just local shepherds with exceptionally good pitch. A third says the music is metaphorical and suggests everyone stop being so literal before the myths become unpoetic. You stay quiet about the fact that you have heard something. Once, at the edge of sleep, a sound like fingers brushing harp strings inside your chest. Not loud, not even musical really, just present, and strangely kind. Meanwhile, over at the Oracle's shrine, things are taking a more formal turn. A new priest has been appointed, young, overly enthusiastic, and already drafting a multi-volume commentary on the doctrine of divine fatigue. He holds public readings under a fig tree, citing obscure passages from Hesiod, Plato, and one particularly opinionated beekeeper from Naxos. "Let us not fear the slumber of the luminous," he declares. "For in stillness, even the gods compose new light." You pretend to sneeze every time he says, "compose new light." It's a reflex at this point. Back in the market square, artisans are selling handcrafted sundials with adjustable nap gaps and hourglasses filled with glittering sand that moves in slow, spiraling curls. One potter unveils a line of amphorae shaped like dozing lions, titled The Sleep Series. Sales are strong. A woman in a saffron robe stops you by the fountains. "I had a dream," she says. "Apollo sat at the end of my bed and whispered, 'Not every hour must count.'" You smile. "Did you ask him what does count?" She nods. "He said figs." Naturally. At the edge of town, a newly planted grove begins to draw attention. People say the trees were sown the morning after the event. Some by hand, some by quiet agreement. And now they grow unusually fast, as if touched by something golden. The grove has become a quiet refuge. No loud-speaking allowed. Hammocks encouraged. You visit often. One afternoon, tucked beneath a laurel, you overhear a visiting historian attempting to interview a goat herder about the nap day. "Did you observe any abnormal atmospheric phenomena?" the historian asks. The goat herder tilts his head. "Sky didn't talk." "Any disruptions in agricultural behavior?" "Goat sat down, I sat with him." "And did you feel a sense of existential cosmic realignment?" "Felt like a good day to not do much." The historian scribbles furiously. Fascinating. Back in Delphi proper, the temple initiates launch a slow oracle experiment. Petitioners must whisper their questions and then wait 3 days for a response, if they get one at all. The idea is that divine answers should be earned through patience. You try it. You whisper, "Is it okay not to know what comes next?" 3 days later, a child delivers a folded fig leaf with one word scrawled inside. Yes. It's signed with a tiny sundoodle. Perhaps Apollo is developing a sense of humor. Meanwhile, night festivals have become more frequent. Not raucous celebrations. Delphi isn't Athens after all, but gentle gatherings. People lie on rooftops, watch constellations shift, and compose lullabies about things like dew or shadows or the philosophical dilemma of socks. A favorite refrain: "When gods forget to shine their shoes, we all get days we didn't choose. But maybe in that extra shade we find the stars we almost made." You hum it now and then, especially during walks. One walk takes you past the stables where Apollo's mythical horses, those fiery, tireless, impossible creatures, are said to be kept when not galloping across the sky. The stablemaster is an old woman with arms like braided rope. She tells you without ceremony that the horses also took a nap that day. "Snored like distant thunder," she says, eyes twinkling. "Do they usually sleep?" "Never, but that morning they did, all four, lying down, curled like puppies." "Why?" She shrugs. "Why not?" You thank her with a piece of honey bread. She accepts it like a blessing. That night, the stars seem to blink slower, and you begin to wonder if the whole sky has joined in. A new cadence, a quieter harmony. As though Apollo's one indulgent, unprecedented yawn didn't just delay a sunrise, but rewrote the tempo of belief. No one talks about productivity anymore. No one asks the sun to prove its power. Instead, they thank it when it rises, and they whisper soft lullabies when it doesn't. The seasons drift forward, but in Delphi, the sense of time has loosened like a well-worn sandal strap. You wake later, walk slower, think longer. People stop measuring days and chores and start measuring them in how many olives I ate while daydreaming. And somehow, everything still gets done, just more gently. One lazy morning, a new rumor ripples through the sanctuary. Apollo has started writing poetry again. Not the thunderous, thunder chariot kind of poetry you'd expect from a sun god with a reputation to maintain. These are softer works. The kind of verses you might mutter to yourself while tying sandals or shelling peas. A few lines even show up scribbled in the margins of temple donation ledgers. Clouds are just sky thoughts waiting to become rain or drift into sleep. A skeptical scribe accuses the kitchen boy of faking them for fun. The boy shrugs and says, "Then why do they make people cry a little?" Touché. Meanwhile, the official oracle, still not exactly bouncing back to pre-nap enthusiasm, is receiving some rather offbeat questions. One recent entry, "If Apollo overslept, is it legal for me to skip tax season?" Another, "Would a second nap realign my destiny with fewer goats?" The oracle's responses remain vague and profoundly unsatisfying, which ironically makes them feel more divine than ever. There's a story now making the rounds about a statue of Apollo in a neighboring village. The statue supposedly yawned. Not a symbolic yawn, not a crack or weathering accident. An actual creaky-mouthed, arm-stretching yawn right at sunset. This, of course, sent the village into either a theological frenzy or an immediate impromptu nap, depending on age group. Scholars from Athens have been dispatched to verify. So far, they've confirmed only that the statue is very relaxed and currently surrounded by 12 incense burners and a basket of grapes. Historians still argue whether the event signals divine intervention or high-grade marble fatigue. Back in Delphi, a local drama troupe stages a lighthearted play, Apollo's Pajamas, a tragedy in 3 snores. It features a pillow made of clouds, a cursed alarm rooster, and a very chatty moon. You're pretty sure no divine curses are issued afterward, which is considered a smashing success. In the middle of this slow unfurling of communal exhale, the temple decides to formally commemorate the event. Not with a new altar, but with a garden. You helped plant it. It's not a grand affair, just a sun-dappled courtyard filled with sleep-scented herbs, lavender, chamomile, poppies. A narrow path winds through the beds, ending in a single stone bench where visitors are encouraged to sit, say nothing, and just be. There's a plaque nearby, etched in modest script. "On the day the gods slept, we remembered how to be awake." Even the bees seem quieter there. Meanwhile, a retired philosopher, known mostly for his past rants about the moral decline of sandal design, has taken to teaching free classes under a fig tree. The course title, Existence with Breaks. Lesson 1. Sometimes not doing the thing is the thing. You attend once. He asks everyone to describe their most forgettable moment. It's strangely freeing. One girl recalls staring at a wall for 4 hours. You recall the time you tried to organize a drawer and ended up napping in it. Applause all around. Soon after, another oddity surfaces. A minor temple in Thessaly reports that one of its ancient sundials has stopped ticking. Not that sundials tick, but this one apparently emitted faint rhythmic pulses before. Now it just hums. The local priest interprets this as a divine message. Time is a song, but sometimes the chorus is silence. Merchants start selling bracelets etched with that phrase. It becomes a trend. Even the goats wear them. Your dreams begin to shift, too. Where once they were full of noise and chase and gods hurling lightning bolts at fate, now they wander. You dream of gardens where every tree hums with lullabies. Of Apollo not as a blinding deity, but as a barefoot figure resting beneath the stars, arms folded behind his head, whistling to the crickets. And in that dream, he notices you. He opens one eye. "You're still thinking too much," he says. Then he closes it again and is gone. You wake up smiling. Back in Delphi, the night watchmen have adopted a new ritual. Instead of walking their beats in tense silence, they now hum soft melodies to each other. Little call and response lullabies. It's said Apollo hears them and sometimes harmonizes, if only faintly. You join them once. Not to sing, just to walk. And under that sleepy sky, your sandals crunching gently over gravel, you feel it again. That warmth, not from flame or glory, but from something slower. Something like peace. Because ever since the day Apollo overslept, the world hasn't spun slower, it's spun kinder. And that might be the real miracle. Time, or what's left of it, continues its quiet stretch in Delphi, the days unfolding as gently as the petals of the night-blooming jasmine near the temple walls. In this rhythm of stillness, you notice that the world has softened. Not just in how people move, but in the way they listen. Conversations have become slower, less rushed. Words are chosen with more care, each syllable measured against the weight of the next. Even the wind seems to pause before it whispers through the columns, holding its breath just a little longer before slipping past your ears. The most curious thing about this new phase, however, is the increased interest in dreams. You've started hearing more and more people talking about their dreams openly. The baker dreams of an orchard where the fruit grows in golden shades. The blacksmith dreams of an ocean that tastes like salt and memory. The goat herder dreams that his goats can speak in rhyming couplets. And then there are the divine dreams. Lately, there's been talk of Apollo appearing to people in their sleep. Not with his usual radiant chariot, but as a quiet figure standing at the edge of a moonlit grove, his lyre resting in his hands. He's never loud in these dreams, never commanding. He's simply there, offering a gentle smile or a knowing glance. One evening, you sit by the fire, listening to the hum of crickets, and you overhear a conversation between two travelers passing through the city. One tells the other that Apollo visited her in her sleep the previous night. In her dream, she'd asked the god about the secret to happiness. Apollo just smiled, she says, and whispered, "Sleep long, laugh often, and eat figs." The other traveler, eyes wide, presses for more details, but the first shakes her head. "That's all, but I woke up feeling lighter. I think it was the figs." You smile quietly to yourself. It's strange how something so simple can sound so profound. As the days pass, the new rhythms of life become more ingrained. The festivals continue, of course, though now they are less about grandeur and more about softness. The Sun Pause Festival, which began as an unexpected celebration, has turned into a regular event, and it's always a surprise who shows up. Some come for the simple joy of lying in the sun without the need to do anything. Others arrive for the oddity of it, a curiosity to see a crowd of people trying to match the laziness of the gods. The children naturally still play chariot delay, but now there's an added twist. Instead of just pretending to be Apollo, they pretend to be the stars themselves, drifting slowly across the sky. The whole town plays along as if everyone is in on the cosmic joke. More people begin to visit the grove near the temple, the one you helped plant, and sit in silence. The city has become a place where stillness feels sacred. You sit there often, letting the rhythm of the leaves' movement soothe your mind, and wonder if this is what Apollo had in mind when he decided to take that long, unexpected nap. You find yourself thinking less of the world's problems, less of the endless lists and to-dos that used to plague you. Life is quieter now. The constant urgency has faded into the background like an old, forgotten melody. And in its place, something new has taken root. An appreciation for the quiet. A recognition of the beauty in simply being. And then, one afternoon, while seated in the grove, a familiar face appears. It's the astronomer who had been so frantic to observe the stars during Apollo's nap. He's not looking for constellations today. Instead, he's just walking slowly, eyes downcast as if seeing the Earth itself for the first time. "I've been thinking," he says, settling beside you, "about the stars and their patterns. About how we've always assumed they follow rigid paths, unyielding like a god's will." He looks up at the sky as if expecting a sign. But maybe there's room for a little slowness, a little wandering. You nod. Maybe the stars too need their naps. "There's something divine about not knowing everything," you say softly. The astronomer smiles and doesn't argue. For once, then, he doesn't need to. In the days that follow, you notice that more people are taking their time with the small things. The way a child runs their hand along the rough stone wall of the temple. The way the fish swim lazily in the fountains. The way the fire in the hearth flickers as if it has no place else to go. It's a world that feels patient, not demanding. And in this new, slower world, you begin to wonder if Apollo's absence was less a loss and more of a gift. After all, even gods need time to rest. And perhaps it is only when they sleep that we can learn to listen to our own hearts and find peace in the quiet spaces between moments. As the evening draws near, you join the others in the market square for the evening's gentle festivities. There's no rush, no hurry. People drift in and out, buying honey cakes or sitting by the fountains. The world feels vast, yet somehow smaller in the most comforting way. You sit under a tree, feeling the cool breeze kiss your skin, and think back to the day when Apollo overslept. You don't have the answer to the mysteries that still float through the air, but you don't feel the need to find it either. For tonight, the sky is full of stars, the wind is soft, and time is no longer chasing you. And that's enough. It's a few days after the last festival when you notice something strange. A subtle shift in the way the light falls across Delphi. It's not quite the usual golden hue that bathes the city at dusk, but something softer. Something more translucent. As if the sun itself has started to relax into its descent, savoring the slow arc of the evening rather than rushing toward its exit. There's a collective sense that everyone is somehow breathing more deeply. Not a single deep breath, mind you, but a series of gentle, unhurried inhalations that fill the lungs with quiet joy. You're walking past the temple when you see the old philosopher who had taught the class existence with breaks. He's sitting on the steps, his eyes closed, fingers tracing the edge of his weathered scroll. You've stopped by to listen more than once before, but today there's something different in the air. It feels like the entire city has synced into some quiet harmony. Each person, each moment, finding its place. He smiles at you, eyes still closed. You felt it too, haven't you? You nod. I call it the slow shift, he says. The feeling that time is finally catching up with itself. We may have spent centuries chasing it, trying to tame it. But I think for the first time, time's begun to listen. You sit beside him, the stone cool beneath you. The breeze stirs the leaves of the fig tree overhead, their shadows dancing across your lap. It's a simple moment, a quiet one, but there's a sense of wholeness in it, like this is what life was always supposed to feel like. As the day begins to stretch into evening, you wander through the market square. The usual evening hum of voices is present, but now there's no sense of hurry. People speak in softer tones as if they've realized they don't need to fill every moment with words. It's a little eerie, perhaps, but also oddly calming. It's as if Apollo's nap has taught everyone to let go of the constant pressure to be constantly doing something. A merchant at a nearby stall looks at you with a lazy grin. "You've heard the rumor, haven't you?" he asks. His voice hushed as if speaking aloud might ruin the stillness. You shake your head, intrigued. Apparently Apollo's not the only one who can sleep. He continues. I heard that even the stars themselves are slowing down. They've started to pause in their movements, stretching out the night just a little longer. I mean, who's in charge of timing that anyway? Perhaps Apollo himself forgot to reset the clock. You chuckle softly. It's an odd yet strangely peaceful thought. But then again, the way the sky looks now, more languid, more thoughtful, it does seem to match the feeling of the world. You feel as though you're a part of it, as if the stars are no longer distant, unreachable things, but rather close companions, taking their time along with you. The slow passage of the day blends into a slow, beautiful night. The moon is half full and gentle, casting a soft glow over everything, as if it too has embraced the pace of the world. The familiar sense of urgency, the one that once kept your heart racing and your feet constantly moving, has drifted away. You find yourself walking toward the grove as you've done countless times since Apollo's nap. It feels like your feet know the path by heart now, without needing to think too much about it. And in that grove surrounded by the tranquility of the slow-moving trees, you pause and sit by the stone bench. The world feels still, not stagnant, not stuck, but at rest. A feeling like everything is finally where it's meant to be. In this moment, you realize that even the gods are entitled to rest, to take a break, to stop chasing after the endless march of time. So why not us? Why not everyone? And as the night stretches on, you feel it. The absence of pressure. The freedom that comes with the knowledge that you too are allowed to rest, allowed to simply be. Tonight, no questions need answers. Tonight, there's only the hum of the wind, the flicker of distant stars, and the quiet comfort that comes from surrendering to the world's natural rhythm. Apollo's nap was never about his absence, but about what his rest left behind. A reminder that the world can indeed slow down, and perhaps in slowing, we all find a bit more peace. You close your eyes for just a moment, feeling the warmth of the earth beneath you, and let the gentle, unhurried rhythm of the night settle around you. The days continue to unfold like a long, peaceful sigh. There's a particular stillness in the air that has become familiar now, almost expected. It's as if the universe has pressed pause. No rush, no clock to chase after. You've noticed something strange too. The stars are indeed shifting more slowly, their patterns less defined, as if they're taking their time to wander. Perhaps they too have decided that time doesn't need to be measured in relentless moments. The philosophers, of course, are abuzz with theories. Some argue that this slower movement of celestial bodies signals a deeper cosmic harmony, a reset of sorts for the universe. Others claim Apollo himself might be subtly influencing the stars with his prolonged rest. After all, one philosopher quips, he's the god of both the sun and music. Maybe he's just letting the rhythm of the cosmos unfold at a more leisurely pace. The town's collective exhale has spread far beyond Delphi now. It's become a kind of unspoken agreement, a shared understanding that life, for the time being, is better in slow motion. Even the smallest interactions seem to happen with more care, whether it's a shopkeeper wrapping your bread with an extra gentle hand, or a passerby giving you a smile as they walk by. No need to rush, just acknowledging you as they share the same space, the same quiet. And then, one morning, the sun rises more slowly than it ever has before. At first, you think it's just a trick of the light. But as you stand outside watching the way the golden rays stretch across the hills, you realize it's not just the light that's different. It's the way everything feels. It's as though the sun itself is in no hurry to reach the zenith of the sky, choosing instead to linger a little longer, to rest in its warm, golden cradle before climbing higher. The land seems to stretch with it, as though time is allowing itself a longer breath. You decide to take a walk, a slow walk. As you stroll through the quiet streets of Delphi, you notice more of the small details. The sound of leaves rustling like whispered secrets, the faint scent of honey and thyme carried on the breeze, the way the walls of the houses seem to hold their stories in the sun. You stop at the fountain near the temple, watching the water cascade lazily over smooth stones. There's a quiet joy in watching the way the light reflects off the water, each ripple a small movement, each reflection a perfect mirror of the world above. You sit for a while, just listening. The birds are quieter now, too, as if they too have learned to savor the passing of the day. The gentle rush of the water is the loudest sound you hear, and it's a peaceful one, a rhythm that matches the heartbeat of the earth. Time for once is unimportant. The world is simply here, and it's enough to exist in it. As you sit, a young girl walks past, her arms laden with baskets of figs. She pauses in front of the fountain, tilting her head curiously at the water, and then offers you a basket with a shy smile. You take one of the figs, its deep purple skin glistening in the sunlight, and take a bite. It's sweet, simple, perfect. For a brief moment, you wonder if this is what Apollo's long nap has given everyone. A reminder that life, even in its smallest moments, can be extraordinarily sweet when we slow down enough to appreciate it. The world moves more gently now. People talk less, but their words are fuller when they do speak. They're like ripples in the water, small yet meaningful, spreading out and touching everything around them. You've learned that you don't have to chase after moments because they have a way of catching up with you when you're least expecting it. Even the animals have joined in. The goats, once bustling with restless energy, now graze slowly, chewing their cud with a meditative slowness. Even the dogs lie beneath the trees, stretching their legs out lazily as the shadows shift around them. The air smells different, too. Earthier, richer, as though every breath carries with it the weight of centuries of wisdom. In the evenings, the stars have started to shift again, but now they seem content to drift, moving at a pace that feels right, not rushed. There's a new rhythm to the night, one that doesn't demand attention but invites you to simply be part of it. You wonder if this is how Apollo intended the world to feel all along. A soft, slow unfolding of beauty with no hurry to reach the end. You meet the astronomer again, sitting beneath the same fig tree where he once mused about the wandering stars. He's watching the sky, his face relaxed, his hands folded in his lap. "It's strange," he says softly, "but I think I understand now. The stars don't need to hurry. Neither do we." You nod, the truth of it settling comfortably in your chest. The pressure to keep moving, to keep striving, has melted away like the morning mist. Perhaps this is the divine lesson Apollo was imparting during his long, unexpected nap. The rhythm of the universe isn't something to be forced. It's something to flow with. There's a sweetness in that surrender, a gentleness in letting go of the constant pull to do, to achieve. And as you sit there, beneath the slow-moving stars, you realize that the only thing you really need to do now is rest. And that is a gift more divine than any chariot ride. The slow unraveling of time continues, but in a way that feels almost comforting. Each day, the pace of life in Delphi seems to stretch just a little further. It's as though the world, too, has joined the great cosmic nap that began the day Apollo lost track of the sun. You've begun to wonder if this is just a fleeting phase, an unusual alignment of events, or if it's something more lasting, a quiet revolution in the very rhythm of existence. One morning, as you walk through the still streets of Delphi, you notice something curious. The bell tower of the temple, which once rang so insistently every hour, now chimes only once a day. It's a single soft note that reverberates through the air, fading gently into silence as if to remind the town that there's no rush, no need to keep track of every passing second. The bell tolls, and the people look up, smile quietly, and then return to whatever they were doing. No one seems bothered by the missing chimes. It's as though time itself has decided that a single note is enough, a soft reminder that the day is here, but it's not urgent. You found yourself enjoying the slower rhythm too. There's no longer a frantic rush to the market, no long list of tasks that need to be checked off before night falls. The simple act of walking feels like a journey now. Each step a small part of something larger, something more connected. You see things you hadn't noticed before. The way the sun hits the flowers, just so, casting shadows like delicate lace on the stone paths. The slight flicker of light through the trees, the soft hum of a distant flute, playing a melody you don't recognize, but that feels familiar all the same. The town itself is quieter now, and that quietness feels like a balm. There's less of the usual clamor, less of the need to fill the air with noise. People are still busy, of course. The merchants still sell their wares, the children still play their games. But the pace has changed. Even the market feels more like a place to wander than a place to hurry through. The conversations are slower, the laughter warmer. It's like the whole town is drifting into a collective calm. You've started to find peace in small moments, in the spaces between the usual noise. At dusk, you find yourself sitting at the same fountain by the temple, watching the last traces of sunlight fade away, letting the cool evening air fill your lungs with the simple pleasure of being alive. One evening, while seated by the fountain, you notice a figure sitting across from you, leaning against the stone basin. It's the young astronomer again, his gaze turned skyward. He doesn't speak, but his presence is familiar, almost like the gentle hum of the universe itself. "Is it strange?" he asks after a long pause. "That I'm starting to feel like the stars are more real now? Not just things in the sky, but part of the same rhythm we're all part of. Like we're all connected in this slow, endless dance." You nod. It's a strange thought, but it feels true. The stars are no longer distant, unreachable things. They've joined the quiet, the slow rhythm of the world. For a moment, you sit together in silence, both of you listening to the soft rustle of the trees, the faint whispers of wind as it weaves through the branches. There's something deeply soothing about this. No words are needed. The universe is speaking in its own language, one of slow movements, quiet moments, and gentle rhythms. And in that silence, there's peace. Later, as you make your way back through the streets, you feel a warmth in your chest. It's the same warmth that comes from knowing you don't have to hurry anymore, knowing you can take your time. You pass the small shop where the elderly woman sells honey cakes, and she looks up from her counter, offering you a soft smile. "Would you like one?" she asks, as if it's the most natural thing in the world. No rush, no expectation, just the simple offer of something sweet, something comforting. You accept, savoring the soft, golden sweetness of the cake as you walk. There's no need for conversation now. The silence between you and the world feels like a language all its own, one that speaks more deeply than any hurried exchange ever could. That night, as you lie in bed, staring up at the ceiling, you realize just how much has changed. The urgency that once gripped your life has loosened its hold, slipping away like water through your fingers. The town, once bustling with the frantic pace of daily life, has found a new rhythm. It's a rhythm that doesn't require constant movement, constant striving. Instead, it celebrates the beauty of simply being. And as you drift off to sleep, you wonder if this is how it was always meant to be. A world where time is slow and gentle, where the gods themselves take naps, and where every moment can be savored without the weight of constant pressure. In your dream, you see Apollo again, not on his chariot, not racing through the sky, but resting under a tree, eyes closed, content. He looks peaceful, finally free from the demands of time. You smile softly as you watch him sleep, the quiet hum of the universe carrying you gently toward your own rest. Morning breaks again, though it feels less like an interruption of the night and more like a soft continuation of it. The sunlight pours through the window in a diffused, almost lazy way, as though it too has decided that rushing is no longer necessary. You stretch, taking your time to savor the morning's quiet. In a way, you feel like you've been given a secret, one that few seem to understand. It's the secret of slow living, of finding the beauty in the mundane, in the space between the moments that used to pass by in a blur. As you step outside into the cool morning air, you can't help but notice that the birds are still not singing quite as loudly as they once did. They're content, it seems, to perch quietly on branches, waiting for the day to unfold at its own pace. The hum of life is softer now, more measured. It's a welcome contrast to the frantic pace that once filled every corner of the world. You decide to take a walk again, but this time you move through the streets with a sense of belonging. No longer are you just passing through, hurrying to get somewhere. Today, you feel as though the streets are part of you, their rhythms aligning with your own. Each step feels like it's part of something bigger, something slower, something full of purpose. As you wander, you stop at the marketplace where you notice that the usual bustle has shifted into something else. Something calmer. The market is still full of people, but the energy has softened. The shopkeepers smile more often, and the bartering, once loud and hurried, is now conducted with gentleness, as if each transaction is a simple exchange of kindness. One stall owner, an older man with a white beard, offers you a bundle of dried herbs with a wink. "They'll help you sleep," he says, his voice slow and warm. You smile, taking the bundle from him. There's something almost magical about the way the air feels today, something that makes you want to savor each interaction, each moment of calm. You wander further through the market, past the stalls selling pottery, woven baskets, and fragrant spices. The atmosphere is gentle, as though everyone has collectively agreed to slow down. The usual sense of urgency that fills the marketplace has been replaced with a shared appreciation for the present moment. As you make your way back to the temple, you notice that the bell tower, which had once chimed every hour, now rings even less frequently. It tolls only when it feels right, when the air is still enough to hold the sound. You can't help but smile at this new rhythm. Time, it seems, no longer needs to be measured in rigid intervals. The bell chimes when it's ready, and the town listens when it feels right. You sit on a stone bench outside the temple, looking up at the now lazily moving stars above. There's a strange peace that settles in your chest, a sense that, for once, you're not fighting against the tide of time. You're moving with it. The days pass slowly, but each one feels full, rich with meaning. And even the simplest moments, like watching the slow dance of the stars or enjoying a honey cake from the market, feel precious. It's hard to imagine returning to the frantic pace of the past, to the time when every second was filled with something to do, something to accomplish. You've discovered a new way of being, a way that doesn't require constant action, constant striving. Instead, it invites you to simply exist, to move at a pace that feels right for you. And you can't help but wonder if this is what Apollo's long nap was truly about. A reminder to slow down, to rest, to enjoy the world at its own pace. The gods, after all, aren't immune to the weariness that comes with the endless rush of time. Even they need to stop and breathe, to take a moment to appreciate the beauty of the world they've created. You think of the astronomer, sitting beneath the fig tree with his eyes fixed on the sky. He had been right when he said the stars felt more real now. They were no longer distant points of light, but part of the same slow, beautiful rhythm that envelops everything in Delphi. Even the stars, it seems, had learned to rest. As the night deepens, you feel the same gentle pull of sleep that has been with you for weeks now. It's not a desperate, overwhelming fatigue, but a soft invitation to surrender to rest. You make your way back to your room, feeling a quiet satisfaction in your bones. The pace of the world, once so relentless, has become a lullaby. The quiet hum of life around you is like a gentle whisper coaxing you to let go. You lie down on your bed, your eyes heavy, and let the darkness of the room wrap around you like a comforting blanket. The stars are still out there, their slow movements a reminder that the world doesn't need to race. You close your eyes and let yourself drift, feeling the gentle rhythm of time, of life, of everything that's come to be. And as you fall asleep, you smile to yourself, knowing that the world, for once, is at peace. And so are you. The world outside is quiet now, still as though it too is drifting off into a peaceful rest. The silence is deep, unbroken by the usual sounds of chatter or hurried footsteps. It's as if the whole universe has decided to hold its breath, allowing the night to settle in with gentle finality. Time no longer feels like something to fight against, and as you lie there, letting the dark embrace you, you find comfort in that very stillness. In the distance, the faintest shimmer of moonlight dapples the earth, just enough to remind you that the world continues to turn, even if it no longer does so at the breakneck speed it once did. There's no urgency to it, no need to rush from one moment to the next. For the first time in what feels like ages, the sense of time's weight lifts from your shoulders. It's as though, in these final hours of the day, the world itself is gently lulling you into a quiet surrender. You think back to everything that's happened since Apollo first overslept. The way the world around you has changed, the way everything has slowed down, grown more thoughtful. It's as if time, with all its constant pressures, has been put on hold. Perhaps after all, it was Apollo's absence that made everything more bearable, less strained. Perhaps it was the very act of resting that opened your eyes to the beauty of just being. In the silence of your room, with only the soft rustle of leaves outside and the distant hum of the night, you realize that this newfound peace isn't just a gift from the gods. It's a gift you've learned to embrace on your own. Time is no longer a foe or a force to be reckoned with, but a companion, a gentle guide that moves with you instead of ahead of you. There's no more hurry. No more feeling like you have to catch up. The world doesn't need to race forward, and neither do you. The moonlight softens as you begin to drift further into sleep, and a calmness washes over you, like the last ripples of water on a quiet shore. You can feel the weight of your eyelids growing heavier, your mind slipping into the peaceful quiet that has been waiting for you. The dreams that come are gentle, sweet, whispers of a world that has finally found its balance, a place where even the gods are allowed to rest. As you breathe in deeply, feeling the soft, slow rhythm of your own heartbeat, you realize how much more peaceful everything has become. There's no rush to go anywhere or do anything. The world is just here, unfolding slowly, beautifully, without any need to force it. And with that thought, you let go. You rest. Now, more than ever, you understand the beauty of simply existing. In this world, in this moment, there is no hurry. There is only peace and the quiet hum of life moving at the perfect pace.